Okay, beacons and buoys serve the same purpose in terms of acting as aids to navigation. The difference between the two is a beacon exists in a fixed location, whereas buoys are floating and moored to the sea bottom. So if we start by drawing out a buoy here, it'll have an anchor on the seabed here, and then a chain or a cable leading up from it. And then at the very top, you will have some kind of buoy up there, floating in the water, moving around. Importantly, it can move anywhere within a certain range, just based on like the height of tide and the length of the cable here. Whereas if you have something like a beacon could just be a single spar rising straight up out of the water, either like a wooden or a metal pole sticking straight up, meaning it's directly grounded into the location of where it was anchored. A beacon could also just be built on land like this, in which case it's not even in the water. Altogether, they could be doing the same thing. We could, let's say if we wanted these to be isolated danger marks, that could be an isolated danger buoy saying something around here is dangerous. You could have the exact same marking on top of this beacon here, or on top of this. All just saying don't go here. Obviously don't go here, it's not even water. It's important to understand the difference between the two, even though when we think of nav aids, we almost always think of buoys because they're the easiest to make. There is a substantial difference amongst them in that if you were to sight a buoy visually, you could not use that to give yourself a line of position or anything because they move around. You have no way of knowing if the buoy is here or here or here. It could be anywhere within the range that its cable allows it to move in. Whereas this beacon is always right here. You can rely on that. And if you were to get either an LOP off of a visual bearing or some kind of radar range from it, you could trust that this is accurate. Same as this one, though the beach might throw off the radar, but visually this would be just as accurate to use. So while buoys are more common, beacons can be more useful because they're fixed in place. Now, in terms of lighting, all of these can be or can be not lighted. You could have some kind of light fixture on each of them. You'll see that there's a major distinction on the charts where a lighted buoy will, on its shape, this is the shape for a buoy, a little diamond, it will have a little magenta shadow underneath it, whereas a lighted beacons are, technically these would be day beacons if they're not lighted. If they are lighted, they would be beacons, and they would be marked with a little circle to mark their location, and then this little exclamation point shape, also magenta, off to the side of it. Now, when we go further into the descriptions of all the types of buoys, just bear in mind that every type of buoy can also be a beacon. Lighthouses are technically beacons, though they're almost treated as their own category, separate from normal beacons, because this might just be a pole sticking out of the ground as opposed to, a full-size lighthouse. That's something significantly more substantial. Remember, beacon, if it has a light, day beacon or day board, if it doesn't have a light, if it's just essentially just a sign.